Hello.
All right. Hey, Katie. Trevor, are you there?
Yeah,
Andrew?
I'm
I'm
here.
unmuted.
You're unmuted? Okay, perfect. You're
You
the most
probably will wish that I was.
We don't know how to mute you.
We don't want to.
All right. Well, welcome to the call, everyone. My name is Dr. Kurt Fusnick, and really, Tom, I just feel honored every time we can get you on the call. I know that you're a busy man. You got family, you got grandkids, and great grandchildren as well, and doing your thing and being a scientist at the same time. But you know, um, as we look at everything that you've done, I know that you previously had taken a company and gone from here to there and made a $1 billion company with it. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand the microphone over to Katie. We've got a couple people that want to ask some questions and let that go that direction. So Katie, I'm going to hand it over to you, and thanks for being with us, Tom.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Great. Thanks, Kurt. Thank you very much, Tom, for being on the call. As Kurt said, we definitely really appreciate you making the time to jump on. So,
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you. So the first question I wanted to ask was a little bit about the background for entering the industry. So how did you come about getting into the industry? I hear it was because of shampoo, and your daughter Liesel tells a story about sunscreen.
Well, Lisa lies a lot, so you can't trust her. But I got in this because I found a product that could grow hair. I didn't find it. It was found at the University of Helsinki in Finland. But I saw the study because I was in industrial chemicals. So I had a manufacturing plant, big one that was doing that. And I read that days before the internet, of course, then. But I was reading in a journal, and here they had discovered a product that they're putting on men's scalps to try and treat them for skin cancer, and didn't help with the skin cancer, but they started growing hair. And it wasn't from the medicinal ingredient, it was from an emulsifier that makes like a salad dressing, water and oil. So it was a specific emulsifier, and it was emulsifying the hormone that caused male pattern baldness. And so I had thousands of supermarkets I sold products to for all our building maintenance and floors, and I thought, I could put that on shelf space. And I knew the owners from some very big chains, so I thought, I went and talked to them, and they said, yeah, you can put it on the shelf. So I took a look at it and formulated it, started to test it on some people, and it was working. But then also, the University of Helsinki had said one thing, which is even true today, and it's the most important part, because it was followed up with a German study. It was very independent of that one. But they said there's an ingredient in almost all hair shampoos that inhibits hair and keeps it from growing properly. And what it is, it says that you have a growth cycle of about 3 to 4 years, and then it falls out for about 3 months. And that's the way that our hair grows. So each individual is doing it at different times. So we're losing hair all the time just because of that. But they said if you're using an ethoxylated shampoo, and it told the one, which was a lauryl sulfate, a sodium lauryl sulfate, or lauryl sulfate. But anyway, if you had an ethoxylated one, what happened is it put the growth cycle into a whole different paradigm. Number one, hair only grew half as fast. Number two, in a 4-year growth cycle, it didn't grow for 2 years, and then it grew for 2 years. So it was 2 years on, 2 years off. Instead of 3 months off, 4 months on. I thought, by God, if I'm going to make a hair shampoo, or make a hair growth conditioner for scalp, I better not have a hair shampoo, or the people ought not to be using a hair shampoo that has this ingredient in it. And up to that time, I hadn't really looked at shampoos. So I went in and looked at the shampoo that we had in our bathroom at my house. I figured my wife pretty well knew what was the best and what to do and things of that nature. And I was an industrial chemist, so when I picked it up and flipped it around, looked at the label and read the ingredients, for me it was like the chamber of horrors. There were so many things in there that caused cancer, that kept children's eyes from developing properly, that damaged the brain, the skin, denatured the proteins in it, causes gum disease and gingivitis and all kinds of issues, bad for the heart and with it. And but serious cancer causing. And then even about as bad, they were endocrine disruptors. They weren't, they were estrogen mimics. So they had to act like estrogen, but they were 400 times more powerful, and they wouldn't be metabolized by the liver. And boy, that told me a lot when I saw that. So you know how it is now. Girls are going through puberty a lot earlier than they ever did. And boys are not developing, even though they're maybe getting bigger, they're not developing sexually the way they once did. In fact, the sperm count from 1960 till today is off by about 80%.
Wow.
And so that's where it was only like 5% at that time. So, and it's all, there's an article, I published it, and I don't know where it's at now, but it's called Shame on Shampoo. And it was a company that wrote about it and told about how harmful shampoo was. And so I thought, well, that they use all these ingredients for cleaning and different support roles. So I'm a chemist. I can turn around and go around those, skirt those. I knew what they were. Actually, I used some of them because I used the ethoxylated shampoo that causes hair to go into a half growth cycle, only grow half as long and at half the speed. I made car wash soap out of that. It was pretty good car wash soap.
Oh,
and
wow.
then I sold engine degreaser, garage floor cleaner, all of those types, slaughterhouse cleaners that would clean up protein, blood, fats, all that. And I used sodium lauryl sulfate. So I knew that one too. So those were two of them. Then there were some polysorbates. They're serious cancer causers. And since that time, they found that every single breast cancer cell has two things in it. One of them is parabens, and the other is a compound called 1,4-dioxane. Now, you can look at this 1,4-dioxane, and it's not on your bottle. But if you have an ethoxylated surfactant, it's there. It's a tramp ingredient. It's made in the ethoxylation process. Also, the plastic bottles have it in, what they make, and it will leach out into the shampoo because, after all, it's a solvent. It also does in plastic bottles for water drinking. So those are, I can talk a long time on harmful ingredients.
Sure.
And go ahead.
Okay, great. Actually, Trevor, do you want to ask the next question? Trevor, you there? Okay, maybe I'll ask the next question.
Maybe he hasn't star-sticked it.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point.
Trevor, you got
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sorry, guys. Hey, Tom, that's a fascinating story. I remember that story from years ago. Yeah, that's just fascinating. And, you know, you really have changed the world there. So you see a lot of that stuff going on now, so-called safe products. But, Tom, I just want to ask you, why did you go with an MLM direct selling model versus a store brand?
Very good question. I made the product, I put it on the store shelves, and it never sold. And it's kind of surprised me. Then I realized, of course, the FDA was what I was doing. I couldn't say the things that I couldn't say it stimulates hair to grow. And so when I couldn't say that, how am I going to get somebody to buy it unless I spend a massive amount of advertising? And advertising is so expensive. You get 15 to 30 seconds of it, and you pay a fortune on television ad, or magazine ads are very expensive. So I had products sitting in shelves all over stores, all over, but it wasn't selling because people didn't identify. They thought it was just a shampoo and a conditioner they'd never heard of, and they pick up the brand that you're used to, which is full of these kinds of ingredients. So with that, as I was, it sort of came to me, as I was selling these products, and I was testing them on bald-headed men. And so what happened is suddenly I had companies calling me that were MLM companies, because this time nobody was growing hair. This is in 1987, 85, actually, I started. And I ran it 2 years through my industrial chemical business. In 87, I started the MLM. But anyway, MLM companies were calling me, wanting me to make it for them, because what makes an MLM company really successful is a red hot product. So I private labeled it for MLM companies, and it just shot out. And 2 companies got quite large on it. And so I went and spoke at their meetings and things like that. And I never had MLM. I always told people I'd never been in it. And I always told people I escaped from Amway a couple of times. And I wish I hadn't, because of the potential back there. So anyway, I went to meetings because I found out one thing about all the companies. They knew nothing about the products they were selling. They were selling a product that somebody told them what some of the benefits were. Private label, they're not doing it themselves. They have no research team. And it really kind of surprised me that they'd put so much, but I can understand marketing, because supermarkets market, but they just do it for name recognition, advertising, sales, a few things like this. So I saw the effectiveness of a couple of these companies that really had a good program and sort of a good commission structure that motivated the people. Well, the problem was, one of them which is a big one up out of Washington State, made a decision to go into black boxes for telephone. At that time, long distance calls were enormously expensive. So he had developed a black box that could circumvent the big switches, and you could get free calls. So people, and there was a certain fee they were charging, and all your calls were free. And boy, it was spreading like crazy. But then they got shut down. And this company put so much money in it, it absolutely broke them, because they put all their eggs in one basket pretty well with that, and it destroyed this company. The other company was so dishonest with what they're doing to distributors, had a lot of dynamics in it, but they were so dishonest that I finally went and I'd been speaking to the distributors at their meetings all around the country. They'd fly me around and do it. And so the distributors had faith in me. They could see I knew what I was talking about, and I knew how to sell and how to teach them. I could teach them how to sell better than the companies they were working for did, because I'd been the national sales manager for one of the largest industrial chemical companies in the world. So at a young age, I was their national sales manager. So anyway, I have a God-given knack for a few things. One's for science, others for sales marketing. And so I was doing all that, and these distributors started coming to me, and they said they would ask me for advice. This company was trying to get them to invest money in territories and stuff like that. And they came and they'd ask me about it. And well, here I had loyalty to the company and that I was selling the products to, but this was a scheme and illegal, because it was like franchising. So I went and talked to the owner, and he said to me, which is, I like people, and I've always been honest in my business dealings. So I went to them and told them, this isn't right. What you're going to do here, you're going to get shut down. He says, what does it matter to you, Tom? You're just selling us the product. And I said, oh, no, I'm not. This is a matter of moral integrity, because you have me speaking everywhere, and you can't even handle the calls, the technical ones. And I'm simply your supplier, but I have a call center to handle, that I've hired and trained to handle all of the questions that you have, because you're not capable of doing it. So these people have learned to rely on me, and then they come and ask me, and I can't tell them no, because I have a certain obligation to you, but I can't tell them yes. And I see what you're doing to them. And quite frankly, you're a big account. You mean a lot to my business. But unless you change your compensation plan, the way you're doing these things, I'm not going to sell you anymore. And they said they'd consider it. And then about 2 weeks later, they were from out of Dallas, that company was. And so about 2 weeks later, we caught somebody out and back of the building on the weekend who was in her dumpster trying to find all the information of what we had ingredients and the suppliers were buying, and he was been sent up by that company. So I sat down with Tom Jr. and I said to him, you know, I've heard nothing but negative about network marketing. And this proves it from what I've seen. One company go broke, the other two were so mismanaged they couldn't build anything. This one that's doing so well is doing it so dishonestly. I said, everything bad I've heard about MLM seems to be true. I wish I had never, ever heard of it. And so that's where I was sitting. But out of those companies, there were a lot of really good people. And when I stopped selling them the products, then it had a shock because they were building on my products. And I told the guys, you know, and they wanted the formulas. And I said, I developed formulas. They're my proprietary information. So they were trying to figure somebody else out to do it. And there was, in those days, labeling wasn't as transparent as now. So I kept it so nobody could figure out what I was doing. And then these distributors who had built good businesses that were good people, but I couldn't be a part of getting them involved in something that cost them their life savings and all these things. And the other company had a lot of good people, but it went after the golden goose and they chased the wild goose and never caught it and destroyed their company. But there are lots of good people there. And so they started contacting me because I had a call center. And they said, Tom, why don't you get an MLM? Why don't you do it? And I thought about it, and I liked the enthusiasm, the character, and all the positive things that I had been seeing in the company. There was the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was all there. So I sat down with Tom Jr. and I said, you know, I've looked at this thing, and I'd never been in MLM, remember? So my statement was, I think I can do MLM honestly. And now there's lots of companies that do it honestly. I found there, but that was my early experience. So with that, my first distributor was my mother. I couldn't believe that. A good old mom. She'd support me in anything. So anyway, I got that, and then we just started going. And I told Tom, I said, I know how to sell, I know how to market. We know the chemistry, we manufacture the plants. We'll learn how it's done in MLM so we can be more effective. And based upon that faith and my love for people and wanting to help them, and I could see that a product like this would never get to the marketplace because the FDA and big pharma and big medicine are so aggressive about them that you would have serious legal problems and those kinds of things. In fact, as I got sued a number of times because I was talking about harmful ingredients, the biggest lawsuit I had was in Australia. And so I got sued down in Australia by a major international company in making hair shampoos and things like that. And we went clear through, we're getting ready for the trial, and we had depositions, and depositions is worse than sitting in the dentist chair, I can tell you. But I was sitting there, and they told me, they said, they went through all the statements I had, and one of them, I talked about how the hair shampoos would keep children's eyes from developing properly, create cataracts in adults, damage the brain, keep it from developing or deteriorate it, and destroying skin, getting into keeping hair from growing, getting in, affecting the heart and a lot of the other systems. And so they were kind of going through that, and they pulled out one called propylene glycol. Now, propylene glycol is industrial antifreeze. I already knew that because I made industrial antifreeze in my commercial chemical manufacturing plant. So they said to me, and I told them, propylene glycol is industrial antifreeze. It's brake fluid that's in your cars. It's in paints and varnishes, but it's also in cosmetics. And here's what the studies say, that from skin contact, it can cause kidney damage and liver abnormalities. And so the question from the attorneys, and you know how aggressive they can be, they posture, but you know, I've been in sales, so don't throw me. But they come and they said, in harsh terms, admit that propylene glycol is not industrial antifreeze. They thought they were going to intimidate me, but I didn't fall off no turnip truck. I had a lot of sales presentations. I can keep my cool. And so I said to them quite calmly, I said, we're sitting in Sydney at the time in this law office, and I said, do you have a copy of Webster's Dictionary? And they said, well, yes, we do. I said, could I have it? See, I was going to answer the question. So I flipped the book open, and I looked in to where I found propylene glycol, and I walked over to the copier. Mind if I use your copier? No. So I printed out enough copies from that, and I handed everyone around. And I said, now if you read from the first sentence, it says propylene glycol used as industrial antifreeze, in brake fluid, in paints, varnishes, and cosmetics. Right, the first sentence. And they were so stunned. So it showed me the avarice of these companies. This is a big company. This is $1 billion company. And it showed me they didn't really give a hang about the products. They just wanted to shut me up because it was damaging the business rather than change the formulas the way it should be. So we got the end point there. That's a lot of story, I'm telling you. But at the end point, they went through a couple other products, and I devastated them. And they said that everything that I was claiming, I was showing them, and these poor lawyers didn't know what to do. I don't feel sorry for them, but nonetheless, they were pushing me, and they said, "Well, we've decided." Took a break and come back. They said, "We decided, Mr. Mower, that if you'll sign an agreement that you'll never ever say this again, or publish it, or promote it, or anything, we'll drop the charges." And I said, calmly sitting there while they were trying to be forceful and aggressive and all this, and I said, what you can drop is dead, because there is no way that I'm going to do this. I am right. And I said, so now let me give you an option. You've got me in part of this lawsuit, so since I've got skin in the game, you can't release it without my okay. And I'm going to give you 2 days to release it. If it isn't released in 2 days, then I'm not going to turn it down, and I'm going to go for the jugular. And what I'll have is I'll have all these statements. I'll have scientists from around the world that I know that on these research articles will come in and testify to it. And Dr. Samuel Epstein, who's head of the Cancer Prevention Coalition, an international organization for cancer, will fly in here for me. I can guarantee that. And he will tell you every single thing Tom's telling you is true. And all of these things they're trying to say are not. And I said, and the list goes on and on. So I said, you put me to that point, I'm going to go all the way through it. I won't quit. We won't have a settlement. And then I brought my Hollywood side out, and I said, because if I have to go through this and pay all of this money to get to court, no matter whether I get awarded it or not, it will have cost me a lot of money. But I will tell you this, you will make my day, because I will become your worst nightmare. See, I did Eastwood and Sylvester Stallone just right in one sentence. And I said, and what I'm going to do is you'll give me a bonus, an advertising platform that I will put all over the world. You'll see me on TV. You'll see newspaper and magazines articles and all these kinds of things being written about me defeating a big company like you with the truth. Well, what a question you asked there, Trevor. But anyway, that's how I got started. And I defended. I put my money where my mouth is, because it was absolutely right. I wasn't lying. I knew what I was talking about. And those people didn't give a hang whether the products were good or bad or otherwise that they sold. They just wanted to use their marketing skills, even if they were selling products that were potentially harmful with it. So that's my answer to that question. I was just getting started, so I'll let it go with that.
So, Tom, the next question begs to be, can we have this product come back out that will grow hair, and we'll just say that it supports the hair follicle?
Well, I brought it out in Vitalizer, But the problem was I couldn't sell enough of it. Now, you would think something that would grow hair on bald heads would really be a big seller, and it was. But we found most of the product that we were selling was bought by women to give to their husbands or to their sons or father or anyone like that, because they were concerned about a man not having his hair, and men, they didn't seem to be so concerned. Some were, so some would have liked it, but they're not nurturing. We're a hunter-gatherer framework within men and women, so women are gathering, nurturing, caring. Men, we're out there to kill that woolly mammoth and drag it back, and so we have a whole disposition. We don't nurture, we don't take care of ourselves, and all of you know that. And as a consequence, we won't rub just one product into our scalp every night, or at least not enough of us would. Now, some women were using it, was more so, but I pushed it really, really hard. And it was the point where we're throwing away half the batches. It's just like our color cosmetics. So you got to have enough people buying it to justify the run. So as we get much, much bigger, then the answer on this, Katie, is we'll bring it back when we have the body count for enough volume to do it. And we know, because of our experience, we know what that takes, and we're a ways from it. But Australia's doing so good. They doubled enrollment just last month, you guys did. So you're on fire now.
Yeah, that's good. Some people don't understand that, they think of Sisel and they think of the network marketing. But you actually have a manufacturing plant called Supernaturals that you and your son, Tom Jr., own. How does that compare with other manufacturers? Like
it's state of the art. It's what?
I said, what sets you apart?
Well, it's probably the most sophisticated manufacturing plant in the country, if not the world. It's state of the art in everything we can do, and it's huge. It's 400,000 square feet, which is a massive one. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you see in the last scene, and they hauled the Ark into that gigantic, cavernous warehouse. Well, that's what this manufacturing plant is. It's highly automated, and we do all kinds of things. So to do it, I wanted to build it so big that as Sisel grew, it would, and I knew what happened in my previous company, we would consume all the manufacturing space. But in the process of doing it, there's a certain overhead that's fixed, so I wanted to do private labeling to do it. Now our private label business is getting so big. We're making products for Walmart and Costco and Walgreens and GNC stores and lots of them, Bath and Beyond, and a bunch. And we also make for about 40 different MLM companies. But I had to have the name Supernatural. Supernaturals, incidentally, makes Sisel products. It's just that I own both, and so it's just like taking the money from one pocket and moving it into the pocket on the other side. So this product, or this product manufacturing is very sophisticated and very efficient, and it's paid for. It's debt-free. And that huge overhead that most companies have, and the profits and all of those things that go to shareholders and big salaries and those things, we recoup all that. And because we paid for our plant, we're the most sophisticated, we don't have that overhead dragging us and interest and all of those things, we can take the same formulation as any other company has, and we can make it for a lot less than they can. But that hardly satisfies me, because most of them, which is pretty poor, mediocre, to pour in a lot of junk. And so what I want to do is take the differences in the margins of what they would pay me and stack it full of products or ingredients. So the products are using the most exotic ingredients that have ever been discovered and using them in the highest therapeutic dose to give the very best results. And this model I have allows us to do that. But I must have the volume for a private label so that I can have a big staff on hand to do that, because of the cost and where I want to be with Sisel. And I want to just move this thing along. Sisel, eventually I'll build another plant, and it'll either be just Sisel or else it'll be for private label, one of the two. I have a bunch of property one way or another, but that's why I have a second company, because especially with the MLMs out there, MLM for a lot of companies got a bad name because of a lot of reasons. A lot of it's frustration. People that didn't get rich quick by doing nothing. That's a lot of the problem with MLM. But also, there are enough companies that are poorly ran and even dishonest and that thing. You guys all know that. So with this, I don't have to pay any loan. I pay interest on shareholders, partners, or anything else like that. And so I have a lot more profit. The gross profit equates to higher percents of net profit. Therefore, I can turn around and increase the gross commissions to where they're much higher than they would be for every other company, because we've got I need to do it with. So it's economy of scale on one hand, and then abundance in the other. And that's what I'm sharing with the distributors, so they can have twofold. They can have the greatest product the world has never seen, vastly superior to all others anywhere on planet Earth. It's quite a statement, isn't it? And they can also have the highest paying commission, commission of any company in the world with reasonable qualifications. So you put those two together, all it takes is attitude and energy, and you can overcome all your obstacles and build. But now the ball's in your court. It's all done. It's here, and it's up to you.
Right on.
Great.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think the next question got answered mostly. Tom, we understand that you had mentioned before that you're at phase 3 of a 7-phase plan.
I'm just having a look, because I could go, it's all I could get that was half modern.
Sorry,
Hang on. I muted it.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it's up to phase 3 of a 7-phase plan or build the manufacturing facility. Is that right?
Yes, that's really true. And this, the one thing about the plan is it was 3 big phases to build that thing, actually. And we have, we're running right now at about 20% of the capacity. So that gives us an enormous amount of growth that we can handle. Now, we'll take all the private label business we can have. I mean, we're selling, one company sells 2 million or so bottles of product to China every month. That's good profit, and I can keep a lot more people, have a bigger laboratory, and all those things. Plus, when I buy from vendors, because of my buying power is so great, it lowers the price of the ingredients because I can buy them in volume. And even if it isn't a product that's in volume, I have so many others that I can be buying from them that they give me the max prices. Therefore, I can pass it on, in that case, into making products that are enormously powerful rather than mediocre or totally ineffective. Last year, they went, Food and Drug Administration and Federal Trade Commission here in the United States went through New York and a bunch of major centers like that, and they took the 200 top selling products in America, and they analyzed them. And they looked at the labels, they looked at the ingredients that were in them, and then they analyzed the product. And out of those 200, they were quite surprised. I was stunned. I published it. It's probably in our science page. You can find it again on Sisel. But nonetheless, what they found is about the 200 products, there was not a single one that had enough active ingredients to be considered a therapeutic dose. And many of them had such small amounts of it that it was classified as an analysis as undetectable. That means less than 1 part per million. And all 200 products failed for performance. These are the big, giant, best-selling products in the country. So it shows people are buying them with hope, and they're being overhyped and don't perform. Not even underperforming, don't perform. There are some that do, but that group, none did. So we're totally different. I make it to the max, and I don't want you to ever be compromised on selling or using products. They are the best that can be created in the world, and we got them at a reasonable price, and they're enormously powerful. So that's part of our plan on what we're doing. It's working out pretty well.
Hey, Tom, you're kind of like a superhero.
That's what I tell everybody.
Right. But, you know, here's the thing that I tell people. I mean, I hang out with you. I'm going out there next week. You're not some fictional character who just goes to the laboratory and you develop this stuff by the day. I mean, you and your family live your life by these principles that you've come up with, you know, and you came up with what you called the Mower mission. And I know you've been talking about it throughout the call, you know, without saying, hey, it's the Mower mission. But tell us a little bit about this mission that you and your family you and Tom Jr. started.
Well, there's differences in the family. Of course, I'm the head of it, and Tom has been my right-hand man. He's worked for me for almost all of his working life, other than just a little bit he did when he was going to university. But with that, you go in different phases. And at first, we were really in it to make money, but I wasn't going to compromise my standards and do things that were wrong. And I thought, if we can build the best products in the world and tell people about it and pay the highest commissions, then we're going to be successful if we manage and run our company right. So we start off and we start off to make profit. You have to grow, do all those sort of things with it is. And of course, the bigger you get, the more overhead you have, but the distance between them becomes disproportionately greater in the favor of profit if you're doing it right. So then we have more money to share and sell. And because my last company was $1 billion company. I mean, I'm a kid off the farm. We didn't even have indoor plumbing. Nobody gave me anything, but I created a company worth $1 billion with that. But unfortunately, along with that came a divorce of my wife, who didn't start it with me, but my ex got involved in it, and she believed her own press and all those things that, you know, of humility. I mean, there's dynamics and there's humility too. And she got so carried away, made it impossible, became very, very, I don't know, maybe threatened is not the right word, but anyway, insecure, because she was resentful of the amount of publicity and notoriety I got. I kept telling her, Dee, it's because of what we're doing here. You know, people don't run up to you and say, oh, you're so beautiful, or oh, I can see you're so smart. So say, no, it's because of what we got going. So don't let it ruin you. But it did. And so I sold it. And we sold it to this company. I forced the sale. I didn't want to sell it. I had developed every product. At one time, I had written every word on every page, done all the ads, all of the brochures, all the literature, all of that. I'd traveled all over the world. I've been to Australia 60 or 70 times in my lifetime, coming down there, building the business, been that many times to Russia and all points in between. And so I'd done all that, and darn hard, it was like selling one of your children. Of course, if Doc was one of my children, I wouldn't have had any problem with that. But it was like selling one of your children. And I decided to do it and start over because she had become intolerable. And we got divorced, and she was my 50-50 partner. And so she was so driven with these other things, I forced the sale. And so the owners that came in and bought it were the ones that bought Herbalife when Mark Hughes died. And they came in and we negotiated the deal, and they got done and they said, well, we need a non-compete. I said, I'm not giving you a non-compete. I said, why wouldn't you? You need to sell us big. I said, don't pay me so much money. My business is for sale. I'm not, because I have a great deal to do value with my life. And number one, I don't want to go to my maker and you said, you had all of this and you did nothing and you sold it for a bowl of porridge. Well, no, I didn't want that. But besides, I was at the point where money didn't matter, really. I had enough, had all the things I wanted in life. But what did matter was how worthwhile was my life. What could I do to help other people to make their lives better? And thank goodness from my environment, but my genetics, my Lord that created me, I have it within me. So I'm impassioned with helping other people. And so that's part of the Mower mission. And I'm going to do everything in my power for the rest of my life, which I keep extending with all the discoveries that I'm making, so that I can be at the head of this. And now Tom Jr. is getting to the point where money isn't such a big factor with him. He's done real well anyway with this thing. So you kind of evolve there. And now suddenly, where are we working? And they said from these Herbalife buyers, they said, now you can quit and you can go do whatever you want for the rest of your life. I said, I am doing what I want for the rest of my life. I said, I can't see not doing this. What would I do? Golf? Go on cruise ships with old women whose hair is white, that spray paint it blue, and you call that living? That's not what I want. I want to be right in the middle of it, doing great things that no one else is doing, helping people in ways where they really need it, and I can do it and share my knowledge, my wealth, my experience, my resources, all of these kinds of things to help people all over the world to make their lives better. So that's the Mower mission. Has no harmful ingredients. I tell people the best thing about our products, we have sensational ingredients in our products, but the best thing in many of them is what's not in them in comparison to what competition has. So that's the Mower mission.
Tom, but we appreciate you doing that. You know, wow. I mean, for not just for us as Sisel, but if the rest of the world would hear about it, what we could do. So, you know,
it's coming.
Yeah. We want to move into the subject of anti-aging. We know that last year you spoke at the World Congress of Stem Cells over in Paris. And, you know, after going there and meeting up with some of the icons of that industry, you know, what do you think is the future of medicine?
Well, it's really, it's terrible in a lot of ways. Stem cells are really the most important component of that, and this the World Congress of Stem Cells is a huge organization with all kinds of professionals and all kinds of research and universities and everything around. And they asked me to speak because of what I was really to the forefront with this thing that's in the age bill, and word got around to people who were there and what I was doing. So they asked me to come and present to them, and so I did, and they were impressed enough that they've now asked me to sit on the board on a committee and be a committee member, and also to come back and speak now. And so I've agreed to again, and here in a few months I'm going to fly over to the convention. This year's in London, and I'll speak to them again. But my presentations are different than everyone else's in that they come in and they want to go in depth, what they found in the laboratory, what the tests were, and the pros and cons, and all these minutiae. I go in there and tell them how to do what they can do, what they have, what they can do to take it, and we're making or could be made products that are really powerful to introduce in here for this and do that of what you're researching and finding. So I guess they really liked it because everybody else about go to sleep with some of those presentations. Of course, I'm a scientist too, but I've got a sales side. They don't. And but anyway, it's a great thing for the company too, and because I realize that because that I now am on their board and I speak with them, that's very prestigious from that standpoint. But for me, I'd just soon be fishing. But I'm glad to do that because it helps to build the business. And that's why I've met with President Trump. I've met with him, and some of the other presidents. Obama I wouldn't meet with, but anyway, presidents of countries and kings of countries, and Dalai Lama is a very good friend of mine. All of that thing, but those things are nice, and they're byproducts of what happens when you become successful. But the most important thing for me is the boots on the ground, being right there with the people that are actually doing it, that want to change their life. They're willing to make the commitment, but they just need a track to run on. I can give them the track to run on, and they can win on it every time. This is like Monopoly. Every time you pass go, you collect $200. We've got that kind of a program going, and as long as you keep running and working, you're unstoppable. You only stop. You're your best asset and your own worst enemy. So how are you going to use you? If it's to be, it's up to me. Okay. If it's not to be, it's up to me too.
That's right.
So we got the opportunity to do it, and that's what I'm dedicated to doing. That's the most important part of it to me, not all these other things. They go with it. They look good. They get you places. You can do things. It's great for the distributor force. But my key interest is that, in fact, as me, the most important distributor is the new distributor. We should do everything within our power to make them successful. And if they quit, okay, some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? Find the keepers, the ones that are worth having. And so that's my philosophy on that.
You know, Andrea, I know you had a couple questions for Tom regarding, stem cells and senolytics and that sort of thing. You know, Andrea, do you want to ask Tom? We're getting close to the bottom of the hour here, so.
Yeah, you have a product coming out. You know, the senolytic field has become the fastest growing field of medicine, I heard, and so you've been doing some work in that area. Is there anything you can share with us about that?
Well, senolytics is, yes, it's coming out fast, but not many people know much about it with what's there. And the serious problem you have with senolytics, and for those of you who don't know, that has to do with what they call senescence. And that is capability or production or performance of a body, of a stem cell in particularly, which everything keys are really around the stem cell. So here's what happens. It's the same thing as in your car. If you travel a lot, pretty soon your motor starts getting worn out, and eventually it breaks down. That's what happens to our bodies, because all of this activity in our body is based on oxidation. We're oxidizing glucose, just like gasoline is oxidized. Both factors are the energy source and oxygen. We're doing the same thing in our cells, and even a spark sends it off. So when it sets it off and sparks within the cell, there's a byproduct because it oxidizes, and a single oxygen molecule, remember oxygen's O2, and it always pairs, and when you split it, it wants to pair with something else, so it pairs with your tissues, and then what happens is that's what is like rusting. So you just start rusting away, and then systems go down, and then a lot of things build up from a lot of the processes that go on within the body. You get plaque in the stem cells, you get cellular sludge and garbage that accumulates over a long time that can't be discarded or ejected from the cells because it's become too large a molecule. And so all of those factors are involved, and that's one of the things the stem cell people are interested in. But as that happens, it's like a rheostat on a light bulb. You can turn it all the way up and it glows really bright. But if you start turning that dial, it'll go down to where it's just a dim flicker, and you can turn it right off, actually. That's the way our bodies are working, too, because aging isn't a disease, which is fortunate for us, because none of the Ministry of Health says aging is a disease. Nobody says if someone dies it's due to age. They might say it's due to factors associated with age, but aging is decay and degeneration. So what can you do if your car's engine is going bad? You can get it overhauled. You can get the parts fixed that are not functioning right, can't you? And you can run that car or that new engine in your car, rebuilt engine, and it performs like it did when it was new or close to it anyway. And the same principles are involved within the body. But this is really the theme that we have on, like the age pill and the H2 stick and the triangle of life and brain vitality. Those follow that theme. But what happens is you have a lot of stem cells in your body. You got, 40 trillion cells in your body, but you have 220 about different categories of stem cells, because they have to be different for all the things they do. Fingernails are one, eyes are another, and skin and heart, and all those are all driven by stem cells. So over a period of time, the stem cell, you don't make more new stem cells. That's the problem. So you're set with a certain amount after you are born, and they grow you quite rapidly until you're about 18 or 20, and then you start to decline. and stem cell activity goes down. Yes, it goes down at that age. By the time you're 30 years old, you've lost 20% of your stem cell activity. But this is a slippery slide, and I can tell you this: as jumping on, it's like jumping on a slide. At first, you don't go fast, so by the bottom, you're really ripping, and that's the way we are going on to death. Because, and you got to remember this: if a decay and degeneration is the cause of aging, how about if we end the decay and increase the regeneration above what the degeneration is? Then what do you have? It's just about impossible not to grow young. That's the whole thing behind it. But in the process of that happening, when you go from 30 years old with 80% activity, you've lost 20%. Just 10 years later, you're down to 40% activity, or 60% activity and 40% inactive. Then go to 50, and now you're sitting at 80% inactive and about 20% active and failing. And in your 60s, you go down to about 5% or less, and then it gets so slow, and the telomeres are worn out. They're not replaced and built back and all of that. And many of your stem cells, which they really are, it's the chicken that lays the egg that keeps the farm going. And so with it, like the queen bee that provides for the hive, and when they slow down, then you don't have enough bees and it disintegrates. And that's what happens with your body. And so if we can end the decay and create regeneration, what are we going to do with all these stem cells that have literally died or dormant? They really, most of them don't die. They become dormant. And when they become dormant, they're so damaged, they start leaking what they call oxidative stress factors, and they are the dangerous ones. They're the ones that really age you and cause the serious diseases that you have in your body. And they're oozing them out, and they're damaging other stem cells, other parts of the body. And scientists, kind of like some, like me, they know it's a fact that's happening. And so your worn out stem cells are now hurting, damaging all your other cells, and your stem cells that are good or not are still operating. And so why is that happening? Well, what they think it is because it's trying to identify itself to the immune system, so they'll come in and kill these stem cells because they're dormant, and there's a mechanism to do it. And if you could kill one with a stem cell, if you could have the immune system come in and identify it as that, which they do, then you kill it, and it's in a bud, a polyp, and it pops up a new one. Yeah, a new fresh stem cell. Now, that's where we're getting around to senolytics here, because now you have all of these dormant, say you're 80%, 70%, 50% dormant in stem cells. That's a lot of dormant cells, and you can see those 10-year increments, how your body goes down. So senolytics is now taking a look at this senescence, and the key to it is that we should do everything we can do to prevent it from happening, and that's what we've got our other products for. But senolytics now has a whole new purpose. Senolytics is taking senescent cells and killing them. Now that might sound, well, do I want that in your body? You bet you do. When you're young, it's doing it fairly well, but as you get older, I mean, how can a stem cell, one single cell, just put out many millions or hundreds of millions of cells in its lifetime, not wear out by the time you're 50, 60 years old? It's impossible. So you have all these there that are dormant, and if you could create a stem cell to go into what they call apoptosis, which means cell death, then it dies, and out of that polyp, a new stem cell comes out. So now you start repopulating your stem cells with young, active stem cells. Still here? I hit a button.
Yep, we're here.
So anyway, I'm getting a little animated. Talk to my hands and hit a button. Anyway, so now this is a new science. And it's the science of getting rid of the senescent cells that are such a health hazard, and taking those that aren't working, that are causing tremendous amounts of damage, and replacing them with new ones that are ready to go like you were a child again. So in order to do that, it has to die. And the problem is your immune system's looking for it, but quite frankly, when you get old like that, older, your immune system becomes more dumbed down, and it's not good at identifying them. It'll bump right into a cancer cell sometimes that it should be devouring and won't identify it. It goes on and on because it's just stem cells got so worn out, they don't have the properties they did. So there are some compounds that, and I have to be very careful with this one, but there are some compounds that cells have receptors. It's like switches. There's a lot of them there on the inside and on the outside as well that have to do with the metabolic processes, but there is one that can be triggered, and the body can trigger it, and even the immune system would trigger it if it could identify it, and it causes the cell to commit suicide, to die. And then the process comes of getting a new stem cell out that will automatically pop out. And what are you doing? You're repopulating those. Plus, if you had the products like all the others that were using with it, now you're going to be growing younger, stronger, living much longer, and the possibility to live a very, for people that are within a reasonable age, people 30 or 40 could live 200-300 years, I think now. And how would you like to live a long lifespan at a very young age? That's what we're talking about. Because when you're not in your 70s, that's middle age. Your human genome is designed to go 150, but it's just everything wears out. So if we take care of all that and do it, and if we can kill off the other senescent, which are our cells, which are the biggest health hazard now that you have, and replace them with fresh young ones that do nothing but build the body, what have you got? And you've got lightning in a bottle. So senolytics is there. The problem is big pharma is ravenous on this. There is so much money in it that they're doing everything to crush anything coming into senolytics. Other than they need to find a scientific or a molecule, a synthetic molecule that will do it. But guess what, folks? Most of what they find is found in nature first, and then they develop a synthetic molecule for a drug because it's illegal to patent a natural ingredient. They're considered legally God-given, and so with that they have to find this magic bullet somewhere, and maybe it operates in a different matter, but if it elicits the same response, then that's what they want. And that's why natural products work so well for certain things that science has researched, but then when they make a synthetic, it's a whole different molecular structure. It might be eliciting the same effect in the body, but it has myriads of side effects that come with it. So here we are with senolytics, and now this is the final one. If you want to take a look at stem cells, and if it all comes from the mother bee, if your egg business comes from the chicken laying the egg, then you want them to go on just as fast and efficiently as possible, and they're not. Senolytic will restore the senescent ones that are so dangerous to where they're replaced with new ones. So you can take the ones that are deteriorating, and during the studies, what they've been doing with some of the compounds that are NAD particular, they can take a old stem cell and they can make it indistinguishable from a young stem cell. But the one thing that they don't do that does inhibit it is they don't remove glycation, they don't remove lipofuscin, et cetera, garbage. Glycation is plaque. Our formula does all of that, so we do it. Then we have 4 different ways that we have with precursors that come in to support the cells that makes NAD+. When that happens, it's magic, because the end result is it does all these processes and energy, and it finally converts to biological hydrogen, which converts to electrical energy, and you get homeostasis in your cells to where they're operating at peak efficiency. So we think we can do that with, if they're not too far gone, and if they are, let's get rid of them, let's replace them with good ones. And that's what senolytics is really, you're right on this, Andrea. It is the missing link in immortality, or as close to it as we can get. But wouldn't you guess that I found something that can do that in nature? My problem is I have to be very careful in how we say it, because big pharma and big government would want to come in and stomp anyone doing it. Well, I've already got the product made. I'm just waiting to release it, and it's called D with a hyphen, da bomb, B-O-M-B. It's the mother of all bombs for coming in here. And this is really an interesting concept I'm telling you about now. I'm not going to release it for a while because we're running wild with the H2 stick and the H pill and CBD, at least in our country, is just gone nuts. And so I don't want to take the server's eye off the ball by rolling out another product. I got 3 biggies, but I'm holding them back because it confuses people. So they just need to go on. We're growing so fast now just to keep on growing. And then when it's time, I will release the bomb. And it's a very interesting product because you only take it every other day. The reason why that's why I crafted that name, is it goes in and it bombs the senescent stem cells. And what happens if you drop a bomb on a building, it blows it apart, and you got to clean up all the rubble? Well, that's just exactly what happens in your body. So one day is you bomb them, and the next day the body cleans it up. Bomb them, clean them up. Bomb them, clean them up. And so this thing is spectacular, and the scientific studies are all there, but I just have to say it right. It's not necessarily it's a natural product, you can use it, but it's not what the product can do, it's what you say it does. And they want you to go through the government testing to be able to make claims. So that takes 15 years and costs about $2 billion. So who's going to do that on a natural product, especially where they can't patent it? So we'll be there. We've already got it. It's already formulated, where it's just waiting in the wings. And then watch this year sometime, we'll drop the bomb, and away we go with that one too. And that is the final step. That is the missing link to life, not life extension, but it's for much more than life extension. This is growing younger, youth regeneration. We're on the path to immortality. Maybe we won't make it, but we can see it from where we're at now, to where instead of going down, we're going up. And how long it's going to last is how well we work with it, and the potential within these products and within our body you can't even classify it or qualify it because it's so immense. And who else is doing this kind of thing? A little bit of something here or there. We're in it up to our neck. We're in it heavy duty with what we're doing. I work on it every day. I work on it 7 days a week. I go to church on Sunday and come down here and work. I don't have a wife right now. I'm looking around for a new model. But I have a lot of time on my hands, and what do I want to do? I'm not going to cruise ships full of women with white hair painted blue. Not going to watch TV and sit around. I'm definitely not going to go down and walk around that dang golf course. I want to be down here fire in the hole, going just as fast as I can to give you these great things and to keep you so far ahead of other companies in the network marketing industry's products, and will be light years ahead of medicine, who's discovering these and trying to bring them to the market. And you got from the discovery of a natural ingredient that does something, by the time it gets to the market with 15 years of testing, you're talking about 20 to 25 years. So those new drugs that are being released now were discovered and developed in the process 20, 25 years ago. I want the things they discovered today, I want them out tomorrow, and that's my nature, and I'm going to do it. I just have to watch where I do it, and we can all be unstoppable because of it. Anyway,
Tom,
back to you. Yeah.
We love your passion.
Well, thank you. I've got that for sure. You need to be passionate about the product, passionate about the compensation plan, passionate about your opportunity. And if you do, and you work with passion, you work with energy and fever, you'll get what you want, because nothing but attitude and energy will overcome all obstacles. Remember that. So go after it. You don't go succeed. Okay, where's the next? See? So if you played basketball and every shot went in that you threw up, it wouldn't be fun to play, would it? So that your successes and your failures work together to give you real happiness and excitement in what you're doing. So the more you succeed, the more successful you become. Not because the task has become easier, but because your ability to do it has improved.
Correct.
So anyway, back to you, Doc.
Well, Tom, we want to thank you for being on the call tonight. I know you got lots of things to do up there, and go shovel your driveway, I suppose, right? But anyhow, it's always fun to hear from you and to hear from the founder, just kind of hear your brain. And like I said, to a lot of us, you're kind of a superhero because you do it all. You've had the lifestyle of the rich and famous. You're a scientist. You're a super brain. You can just tell from your passion about how you're talking about things. And so we just want to end the call by all of us saying thank you for being with us.
You're certainly welcome. And for those down in Australia and New Zealand, I'm going to be coming down there this summer, I think, maybe July or August. That's what I'm looking for. So get your ears in gear, and we'll really get going.
Definitely.
So thank you all for being on the call.
Thanks,
you,
Tom.
Thank you.
Tom, before you go, I've got one thing to say. You certainly didn't fall off the back of a turnip truck, mate.
Right. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you, mate.
Okay. Well, remember one thing. I don't run on ego. I run on performance, and I don't get caught up in what I have. I get caught up in what I can do to help other people. So that's the way I am, and I'm in your camp. I've really got your back. If you'll go forward, I got your back all the way.
Thank you for that.
Thank you,
All right.
Tom.
See you next week, Tom.
Thank you so much.